Each week we read from Rays of the One Light, parallel commentaries from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, written by Swami Kriyananda based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda ji. This week's topic is titled, We are Children of the Light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. It is common for people to perceive themselves according to their present realities. A person in ill health says, I am ill. Few say, I am well. It is my body that is suffering. People in a low income bracket say, I am poor. Only the unusual person will say, though outwardly I live in poverty, inwardly I am wealthy. Thus, when it comes to moral and spiritual development, people commonly identify themselves with their weaknesses and their mistakes. They consider it almost a sign of humility to say, I am a sinner, though in effect, what this means is that they identify themselves with their sinfulness, not with the soul's power to transcend all limitations in God. The great masters, including Jesus Christ, have always emphasized the divine potential of mankind. To encourage us, they address us as children of light, not of darkness. The Bible, in the Gospel of St. John chapter 3, makes the point that our true home is not the mud of this earth, but the light of heaven. No man hath ascended up to heaven, it tells us, but him that came down from heaven. This passage continues, even so, the Son of Man, who is in heaven, emphasizing that Jesus, though he lived on earth, is perceived by the eye of wisdom as conscious, even in human form, of his true reality in heavenly spheres. The way to know God is to live in godly consciousness and not to bewail our imperfection and our distance from God. Jesus said, Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the Bhagavad Gita states, Seekers of union with the Lord find Him dwelling in their own hearts, but those who, lacking in wisdom, seek Him with impure motives cannot perceive Him, however much they struggle to do so. If you want to know God, Paramahansa Yogananda said, live in the thought that you have Him already. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
I'd like to begin with a reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. This is a book of prayer poems, and this one is entitled, Whether dead or living, I am held in thine immortal arms. Mother divine, the brave may laugh as they pass among flying bullets, though death threatens them with each one. I laugh, however, because whether I am floating on the surface of this present life or sinking beneath the waves of death, I rest forever in thy protecting, omnipresent, eternal life, held safely forever in thy immortal arms. Okay, well, this is a topic that we can approach from many different angles, and they really they have such a good application to our lives, and it's an important teaching because we are children of the light. We even say that in the Festival of Light. O children of light, forsake the darkness. It's very nice when we get to do the Festival of Light, because we even say, O children of light, forsake the darkness. Please stand. Know that forever you and He are one. Raise your hands and chanting Om. Ask that the power of God replenish you in body, mind, and soul. And we chant Om, and then we sing the thunder of Om, and it's wonderful. One morning, because in America we do this Festival of Light every Sunday. One minister slipped up and he said, "Oh, children of light, children of darkness, forsake the light." And so, and at another time somebody said, "Let the power of God refurbish you in body, mind, and soul," because they were doing all these repairs. I can relate to maybe at least the second one, if not the first, even now, because we've been laying carpet. And, when you're laying carpet, you think about things like paste and foam and carpet and dust and windows and circulation and all these things. And so anyway, it's amazing how then you just have carpet for the rest of your life. But during the time of the birthing, it's a lot of chaos. So it's important to remember that we are children of the light. Sometimes in religion, as it was said, people will be approached as if, the approach is that I'm a child of darkness, I'm imperfect, I'm reaching up for perfection. And but from a place of being lesser, being separate from God. And we always need to be humble, but we don't have to overdo it. As Swamiji said, if you say, I'm a sinner, which out of humility, it kind of if we identify with our mistake, it gives us the excuse to keep on sinning. I'm a sinner after all, so I admit it freely, and where's the party? Just go on. And so it doesn't help us at all. Swamiji said also, for ourselves and for others, we should identify with our aspirations. Identify with the direction you're taking. Identify with the goals that you're setting yourself, not your present state. And meaning, he said that for each of us, but also in looking at others. Look to their goal, look to their aspirations, rather than saying, well, see where you are right now. And again, we should always find ways to encourage ourselves and encourage each other to grow. Now, do you mind aiming those fins up a little bit more at me? I'm a little warm. We really have to be strong in ourselves. We have to be filled with light ourselves. And we have to identify with that light, feel open to receiving the help of that light, knowing that we really are that light. What's the alternative? How many perfect people are running around this earth? Not that many. So if God is, only interested in perfect people, then why does he have the rest of us just sort of as an audience or as background actors or something? Or, it just doesn't make sense. As Swamiji said, he has to pretty well adjust his expectations down to a realistic level, because we're who he has. Of course, he doesn't see us that way. He loves us. And so the most important point for today is what Master said: if you want to know God, live in the thought that you have him already. He defined self-realization, which is our path, by the way. Sometimes people will, Swamiji would even tease people, because he said people had a hard time expressing what these teachings actually are to others, especially in America, where you can't just, say something from the scriptures. Like someone asks us here, what do you do? Yoga! And then sort of people, yeah, I've heard of it, and I kind of feel like, I should know. And what do you mean by yoga? Sankhya Yoga Vedanta. And you can sort of intimidate people into stopping asking. But in America, there's not that cultural and spiritual, philosophical background for it all. And so when people would be asked, what are these teachings, Swamiji would joke that they would say, well, they're wonderful. They are wonderful, but it was hard to express what are we actually talking about. Even when we came to India in 2003, Ananda started in India, it took some time to really get clear on, when explaining to others, we follow the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of a Yogi. You could say, well, that's obvious. But, it's funny how it took a while. It never took Swamiji a while. He was always very clear. I lived with Yoganandaji. I'm his disciple. We all were clear on one level, but expressing it is a little different. You may have found that. Even recently, a friend of mine asked me, do we follow Dvaita or Advaita? And I had to pause for a moment because, you sort of wake up in the morning and someone says, Advaita or Advaita? And you sort of, is there coffee first or something? But I thought about it a moment and I said, well, really Advaita and Dvaita as philosophies, Dvaita is duality and Advaita, thank you. And these are such pretty things, wherever these came from. If you are present, thank you. This is lovely. Your hot water is especially nice today, with tea in it. Dvaita is duality, and Advaita would be non-duality or non-dualistic. I'm saying this for, the half of a person who hasn't heard these words before. Of course, you all have. But still, sometimes it's worth repeating because we can get caught up in associations with these words rather than the meaning of the words and sort of thinking about them afresh. So we can't really say we don't believe in duality. That's the nature of this universe, manifested universe. It is dual, and happy and sad, hot and cold, and all these things. So we can't, say, I don't believe in it. You can try, but you won't get very far. Day follows night, follows day, and so on. There is that. But the deeper truth of it is that Master said, and the scriptures say, God vibrated a portion of his consciousness to give the appearance of separation, the appearance of movement, the appearance of this creation. And because of this vibration, this movement, we get these two directions, back and forth, up and down, and heat and cold, these opposites. But they're really an illusion, and that's what Advaita says. And also God vibrated a portion of his consciousness, and there's a portion that remains beyond vibration. And so that is the non-dualistic, that is the deepest truth, that ultimately there is only just God waving at us to create this whole thing. And otherwise he is happy in himself. It's not that he's vibrating his whole self. And so, but as philosophies, if you ask, what do we do here? Do we do Dvaita or Advaita? In a sense, I explained it in a sense. We really, if we had to choose, we would choose Advaita because it really contains duality. It says there's an appearance of duality, but the deepest truth is that there is not a duality. But we really don't follow either as like professionals, because what we do is yoga, and Dvaita and Advaita are schools of philosophy within Vedanta. And as you may remember, Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, these three philosophies all go together. And Sankhya gives you the need for the spiritual path. It warns you everything you perceive is not the final reality. There is a reality beyond the senses, it tells you. And so it's the motivation for the spiritual path. And there are probably some people who came to the spiritual path by a book fell off a shelf and it said, oh, Sankhya, what does it say? Oh, look to the reality beyond the senses, Abhidya. But most people come running onto the spiritual path, screaming and crying from all the pain. And says, isn't there anything better? I've tried this and I've tried that and I'm not smiling. There must be something better. And so we don't really need more motivation than that. Oh, and it's also, yeah, that's fine. You keep your philosophy. I'm trying to find my peace, my bliss, and so on. And so yoga is the way to realize that, and Vedanta tells you what it will be like after. And so, which is nice. Vedanta means the end of the Vedas or the fulfillment of the Vedas. But I don't know about you, but if I read enough sort of menus of food. We have special ghee roast dosa, and we have super submarine special, that's a joke, Master said, roast dosa, and so on. At a certain point, this place, 50 kinds of chutneys, fine. You say, but, venum. And, I'd like to eat some of it. I don't want to just read about it. Someone gives you a brochure that shows you all the pictures of the different dosas you can have. After an hour or so, you'd be getting impatient, saying, but where is it? And that is what yoga is. It leads you to the dosa. No, I'm kidding. It leads you to the joy. It gives you that. So really, the point is, we follow yoga, but not to the exclusion of the others. It isn't, someone says, what about Sankhya? Don't speak to me about Sankhya. I vote for yoga. It's not a separation thing like that. You need them all. And it's important. In fact, Swamiji built up the whole of our, you could say, level 2 curriculum. The art and science of Raja Yoga is the course and lessons that it comes from. Basically developing the teachings along the lines that Master took when he gave a course in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And so that's one way to approach this path of self-realization. But Master had taken a different approach in his lessons, which, incidentally, it's not that Master wrote his lessons, they were compiled by someone from his lectures and articles and so on. At the end of his life, Master started editing those lessons, and he didn't complete the editing, but Swamiji then, at the end of his life, published a version of those lessons, basically teaching our path from a different angle. But also, after many years of us learning yoga this way and Master's teachings this way, Swamiji developed what he called the art of superconsciousness, the art of superconscious living. There's the book called Awaken to Superconsciousness, which really approaches the subject from the point of view of where we are going. We have to remember what we're doing this all for. Why? Because otherwise it can get too technical, too detailed, and too sort of obsessed with the method. It's sort of like, having a cooking contest and say, I used this technique for the batter and I used this technique for the ghee. I flicked the ghee as opposed to just pouring the ghee. And someone else says, no, you don't do it that way. You have to slather the ghee and so on. And everybody at the end has cooked all these things, but nobody eats. Doesn't make any sense. What's the purpose of any of it then? You see? So it's that point of we have to remember what it's for. Meditation is for joy. Yoga is for joy. Finding God is joy. In other words, we can't just say, I want to find God. Why? Well, because everybody says so, and so I want to too. Or that's what the saints say you're supposed to want, so I want it. No, we have to know what that means for us, how it feels. Or how it will feel. And we can all agree we want joy, we want peace, we want freedom. Everybody will agree on that, even if they say, I don't want to find it through meditation, I'll find it some other way. I don't want it through God. As one famous quote, now famous, from Alwarpet in one of our early level 1 classes, one man stood up and said, I'm an atheist. I do not believe in God. I only believe in divine energy. And so we concealed our laughter, but we said later, Chennai is so spiritual, even the atheists believe in God. So the thing is that Master defines self-realization as the knowing in all parts of body, mind, and soul that I am now in possession of the kingdom of God. I do not have to pray for it to come to me. All I have to do is increase my knowing. And so we should live in that thought that we have God already. Now, how do we do that? Well, on one level, it's everything that we do. But how? So we meditate. Why? We meditate so that we can feel something inside us. It's not just to feel joy inside us, though that's good, not to just feel peace inside us, but to go within ourselves, to go inside ourselves, to be at our center, to feel. As we said in the affirmation, I am contained, I am self-contained. The joy of the universe is contained within my inner being, meaning it's accessible to me from where I am right now. I don't need to reach outside myself for it. And so this centeredness, this feeling within myself, what is my true reality, is very refreshing. For one thing, as again Swamiji said in the reading for the affirmation, the more our energy goes out the senses, the more we're drained. And this is why you find people who live a lot in the senses, or when, again, not to point the finger at anyone, when we ourselves have had too much fun outside of ourselves, too much fun through the senses, we kind of, tired. Some people will, even joke about it, that some people are eager for the weekend, and then on the weekend they have their big, huge party, and because they've been working all week, and they arrive back on Monday morning exhausted at work. Because, again, too much energy out of the senses. Not that we would judge anyone, because God sets up this whole thing to make it seem that we have to put our energy out of the senses. All these different attractions, from the moment we're born, the body is sort of grown out, the brain here, the spine here, all the rest of the body emerges from that. It's forced out the senses. And so everything really about the momentum of our even birth, the creation of our body and our life, trying to figure out how to walk without banging into things and how to express what you want and so on, rather than in gurgles in this way. All of this, it's forcing us to relate to the world and have our energy go out the senses. So the whole show is sort of rigged and set up that way. So we have to work on deliberately reversing that flow out of the senses. Meditation does that. And in that, we can start to feel God's presence. Whether it's peace, whether it's calmness, whether it's love, whether it's joy, any of the 8 manifestations of God that Master gave us. That really helps us to feel there's something in me that is deeper than there was before I started meditating. But it doesn't feel foreign, just, oh my gosh, look inside myself. Niyara. You know, who are you that you meet? No, it's not foreign, it's just the opposite. You feel, hey, this is more who I am. This is who I want to be. This is who I actually always have been. This is who I am on a good day. If I'm not irritated, if I've ate enough, if I've slept enough, I can be my highest self. And so, but those days don't always go that way, at least speaking for myself. And then we get back to this place of peace, as Master called it, your portable paradise. Then we feel like ourselves again. And that's the doorway to God. So we definitely need meditation. But of course, chanting is helpful too. Chanting opens the heart. It's very important to open the heart. It's very important to feel that receptivity to God's love and so on. Really, the yogi seeks experience, if you want to also understand Shankha Yoga, Vedanta, and so on. I don't mean others don't. I just mean a seeker of experience is a yogi. In other words, we're not content just to discuss, debate, and so on. Now, in terms of the way to experience, that's really what yoga is all about. That's what the techniques are for. And as I mentioned, let's not forget that they have a purpose. They're not an end in themselves. Every path has a temptation or a pitfall that you can get into. And the pitfall of yoga is that we can get too caught up in techniques. We can mistake the method for the goal. Even one saint said that to Master. He said, do not mistake the method for the goal. You go into the silence, you enter into the silence, but have you attained anubhava? It was so nice. I met someone whose name was Anubhav, and I just, he was working at a shop and so on. Just, can I help you? Just, Anubhav. Because I had never met anyone with that name before, and it's such a beautiful, story from Autobiography of a Yogi. Anubhava. And so, anyway, I couldn't help telling him about it and explaining why, and believe me, that did not help matters at all. So, but we became friends over the years. So, another way to really feel this, though, that to find God, live in the thought that you have Him already, is really the purpose of the Guru. It was sweet when I was coming in and Prasanna was chanting Om Guru, because I thought, perfect. This is really what the Guru gives us. He gives us many things, but most of all, he gives us his power of knowing God. And yes, we can sort of feel that because I've taken discipleship, because I follow the rules, he is giving me his power. But it's not like an inheritance or like a deposit in a bank account. It's not a transaction. It's a friendship. It's a relationship. It's a loving exchange. The more we share things with Master, the more he can help us. Why? Because he says, okay, well, now that you're, talking to me, I will talk back a little. It's not that we have to get his attention. It's that we open ourselves to him more when we do that. And so it's vital to find a way to connect with Master through Swamiji as much as possible, because they carry that consciousness of godliness. That's how we felt around Swamiji all the time. I don't mean every single time. I mean frequently. If I say that because there were times when I didn't. I'm remembering of times when Swamiji was right there, and I was used to feeling just electrified and uplifted and joyful and calm and peaceful automatically. Not that I saw him and went like some celebrity or something like that. Once or several times I didn't even see him. I didn't know he had arrived, but I felt something. And again, this isn't specific to me at all, but that power to uplift is really what the Guru gives us. In fact, even guru can be explained in English as Gur U, that which uplifts you. And so he said the same thing about Master, that when he was meditating in Master's presence one of the first times, he felt his power, his consciousness powerfully drawn here. And he said, never by my unaided efforts before had I been able to so quickly and so deeply get my energy centered here. And I knew it was because of Master's help. And he said, I understand why the scriptures praise that the greatest treasure in all the three worlds is the Guru. Now, because the Guru makes it real. Otherwise, it's a lot of talk. It's a lot of reading, it's a lot of comparing, it's a lot of, reading a menu instead of going to the restaurant. And you see that with people who are interested in keeping it on an intellectual level for now. It's safe and convenient, and you can close the book at any time. And so this when you're with Master, like for example, we were listening to Master's voice in the class on, not last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. And somebody said, I've heard that recording of Master before, but somehow, hearing it now, it gave me something new. And that's also something that it's not just the information that the Guru gives, the teaching. In fact, that's not the highest thing the Guru has to give. You might think superficially that, intellectually I got the right technique. The Guru knows the secrets. And he gave me some of the secrets. Now I have the secrets. The real secret is his love. And so we want to work on, wherever we are, feeling that more. Because that helps us to feel that we have God already. Not that we're done, but that we have him and we're just improving our knowing. We're increasingly going in the right direction. And the spiritual path becomes, in a certain sense, much easier. Because you say, rain or shine, here I am, God. Things are going well, things are not going well, here I am, God. My meditations are blissful, they're not, here I am. I'm too addicted at this point. I think I've told you the story, but for the one person who hasn't heard it. Satya, this is early, another Alwar Pet story. Satya and I were talking after a meditation, and she said, this meditation is very good, and I said yes. And then we were eating this murka, and she said, she said, it's addictive. And I said, it is addictive. These Sairam snacks, you open the package and you just hope you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and instead the whole package is gone, and you're wondering where the second package is and so on. And she said, I was talking about the meditation. So I did what Swamiji called unnecessary revelation. But it does become addictive. We are addicted to the joy. We're addicted to the peace. We're addicted to the positivity. This is another way we experience the Guru, is through satsang. Because each one of us brings the Guru inside ourselves, each of the disciples. And then we feel that from each other. God can speak to you through others. Through disciples, through non-disciples too. I mean, God can speak to you through anyone. But Master said the disciples' role or job or duty is to make the Guru real to others. Now, again, not sort of by wearing a Yogananda t-shirt with an arrow pointed at oneself. It's not that, but just by being ourselves, you feel that. And it's beautiful, because when you meet people, for example, from Ananda that you haven't met before, some of the people here were commenting when they first went to another center and met people, they said, but they're just like me. Even though we're in Delhi or we're in Pune or wherever, we can kind of be misled or hypnotized by our surroundings, Sri Yukteswarji said. And so they said, they're just like me. And to feel that joy and friendship and all of that, that's feeling the Guru. That's feeling the vibration of others. Now, I don't mean to limit it in the sense that we can meet anybody and feel a connectedness, and we really should have that as a goal, that we're feeling God, we're seeing God in them. But in terms of that level of comfort, that similarity of vibration, because if you spend too much time mixing with people outside your own family, you can get into unnecessary arguments over silly points. Someone came into the kitchen at Ananda Village in the early days, and someone was cooking, and the other person came in and said, Krishna doesn't like onions, because she was cooking with onions, and she said, well, Yogananda does. It's just sort of like, if the whole spiritual path is, Vengayam or Vengayamila, then, you're going to just have a war. Obviously, everybody can agree Sambar Vengayam is okay. No, I'm just kidding. You'll always find somebody said to me, I don't like paneer. I couldn't believe it. Is it even possible as a human being to not like paneer? No, I'm kidding. I like paneer. But it's just, who knows? I mean, maybe his last life was in a paneer factory, and this lifetime he can't stand the sight of it. I have the same thing with beets. Some people, they tell me that they enjoy beetroot. I think it's because they don't have tongues. But anyway, good for them. Somebody has to, employ the beetroot farmers and so on, but not me. So anyway, these things are superficial and stupid. And so it's nice when you can agree on your core principles. Then you can really, you don't have to kind of walk around holding your breath and kind of clenched up like that. So We can feel the Guru's presence through others, through his master's audio recordings, through Swamiji's audio recordings, and even better, his videos, because then you see him, you get to be with him. There's a lot of teaching that comes through seeing the Guru too. Swamiji said this, that he would spend, after Master's passing, he would spend a lot of time meditating on a particular look that Master gave him, or a particular reaction, nonverbal reaction that he had, and so on. I couldn't understand that. I just thought, Master raised an eyebrow, and, I don't know. It's not that I questioned it. I just couldn't relate to it until after Swamiji's passing. And then I realized, yes, now you have this sort of finite set of memories of being in the body together, and you review them. You think about, oh my gosh, when he said this, he was also saying that, and so on. Maybe he's whispering to us even now, giving us that information. I don't want to go into all the details, but I wrote something a long time ago, and Swamiji edited it before it was published. And so I shared it with someone recently, and the person said, it reads so well, it's written so well. And I said, they said, you should write more. And I said, well, this thing that I wrote, Swamiji edited. And the person said, well, you can write more and Swamiji will still edit it. Very sweet. And the right attitude. Because Swamiji and Master, they're helping us all the time. And the more open we are, the more we can feel that. And what if we can't? Then it's good to imagine. It's good to talk to them, saying, I feel you, you're here, what do you think? Okay, I haven't heard anything yet, but I'm going to do my best, but not, as Master said, you think that you talk to God and he doesn't answer. But he is answering, and so we start to identify ways in which we can see his answer. And if you say, no, not for me, Autobiography of a Yogi says, no person lives who has not seen certain of their prayers answered. Pretty amazing. That made an impact on me when I read it for the first time, because I was not in the habit of praying. And so when whoa. And I had to admit, there were a few times I had prayed out of desperation. Just, if there's anybody out there or anybody up there, I'm saying, need some help here. And those things always worked out. That was coincidence. Oh, how convenient that was. Oh, how lucky I got. It was more than that. But I just didn't have a devotional temperament at that point, because whatever descriptions of God I had been exposed to were not attractive to me. And so when somebody's against, for example, spirituality, against God, against religion, there's usually because they've been hurt by it, and or it just seems too boring. And so don't feel, if somebody's rejecting that they're rejecting what you have. Even if they are rejecting what you have, who cares? Someone said to Master, one day you and all these other, spiritual fakes and so on are going to find out that everything you lived for was a lie, and there is no God. And Master said, well, if so, at least we will have the satisfaction of having done some good in this world, bringing peace to others, helping others to find calmness, and so on. So he had the perfect answer. He didn't say, no, there is a God. God, could you please come and speak to him so he'll be convinced? God respects our free will. Master did too. So as I said, talk to him even if you feel he's not answering. Be open. One person said to me, I was going to write to Swamiji. This is during Swamiji's lifetime. And he said, but then I talked to somebody. I don't want to name the person. And they said, if you have a question, then write to Swamiji. Otherwise, he gets so many letters and emails, it's probably better not to. And the man said to me, and I don't have a question, so I won't write to him. I said, I don't know that I agree. I'm not going to disagree with the person who had a valid point of view and even a valid reason for thinking that way. They were involved in Swamiji's correspondence after all, so you can imagine not one more letter. But I said you could write to Swamiji and you could perhaps thank him for the things that he's done that have helped you. You might share the ways in which they've helped you. Just expressing gratitude might be a way of even giving Swamiji energy rather than trying to get something from him. And this, I had to learn this the hard way in a story I've told before. I won't go through it all again, but realizing that gratitude is something we can always give, and rather than what more can I get. And in fact, when you give gratitude, you end up getting more because you're completing the cycle of giving and receiving and giving gratitude and so on. Anyway, so a week later, the man came up to me and said, "Thank you for that suggestion." And Swamiji wrote back to me. Yeah, no, I didn't want to. What did you say? And what did he say? We were always eager to hear anything Swamiji said because it was always something we could learn from. But I was self-controlled, as the affirmation was, and respectful, and did not intrude. But it's very important to try to feel that divine presence as much as possible, to feel that upliftment in whatever way you do. If you get it from a book, if you get it from an audio recording, a satsang, you get it from serving, it's not that it has to be in one particular way. I just found for me, the secret ingredient was always Swamiji, was always Master. There was always more that I got from association with them than anything I got on my own. And so in a way I was cheating because I had that interest. I had that interest because it paid off. I mean, it worked. It was satisfying. It was joyful. So, it wasn't just that I had interest and it was unanswered. But that interest, I said I was cheating because that interest is something that's not easy to develop. Meaning any interest. Interest is something that we just sort of have. It can be developed. But even developing it requires interest in developing it. You see, Swamiji made this point that one of the most important keys or abilities in learning and growing on the spiritual path is interest. Another way you can put it is receptivity, listening. And he said, and this you can't teach. He said it's very frustrating as a teacher that the vital ingredients that people need, you can't teach. And so don't say for yourself, well, then I guess I'm just stuck. Obviously not. It doesn't mean that. It means, again, even if you're not interested, pretend you're interested. It's amazing how much that can help. I remember I was in the middle of something really boring, and I thought, let me pretend that I'm interested in this. Oh, the different kinds of stamp collections. Okay. Okay, there are people who like devote themselves to this. So why do they do it? And so on. There must be an attraction to it. And in that case, I had to say I did fake an interest the entire time. It didn't turn into a real interest. But we can find God in any moment. If nothing else, you can quietly do Hong Sa. During something that's difficult, you can do Hong Sa. Well, I can't say more in a mixed group, but you can do other things. You can do Kriya. There's other things to do. Haridas, when he would go to visit his relatives, he would sometimes have the newspaper out and just be doing Hong Sa with the newspaper. And every now and then he would turn the page just to keep the thing going. But he was just meditating the whole time. That's good for joy, for peace, and for protection. So it's important to find ways to not just live in the thought that we have God already, meaning how do we do that? We have to feel it. Feel something positive. Another way you can do it is anything positive that happens in your life, see God behind that. Say, thank you, Divine Mother. That was a wonderful thing. It can be a rescue. It can be something going well, or it can just be a little treat. Something nice. But remember, God gives us the challenges also, because we don't want to become, as Sister Gyanamata said, spiritual cream puffs. What would that be? Like spiritual rasgulla, maybe. or spiritual idlis. You got to have some strength in there. I mean, when's the last time you had plain steamed idli? Maybe you did. My aunt, when she was when I was in Trivandrum and she was serving breakfast, she would say, "Idli or dosa, dosa. Idli or dosa, dosa. Idli or dosa, dosa." And she would say, "Nobody likes idli." And I know some people swear by idli, but it's usually idli sambar. Or idli with chutney. People not. Yes, of course. Yes, I understand. So we're in sacred ground here. But the thing is that we have our strength has to be tested. We need to and to find God, we have to grow beyond our boundaries. We have to be deeper within ourselves. We have to correct our misunderstandings. We have to burn off karma. So we get tests, and God gives those too. And we can find a way, perhaps, to be grateful for those as well. Sometimes not right away. And I don't mean this uncompassionately. And as Swamiji said, he said, very grateful for some of the hard tests I passed through. He said, it wasn't gratitude I felt right away, necessarily. And so it may only be after we've seen the fruits of it. I remember one test I went through that was sort of the thing I had always dreaded, and then it happened. Betrayal. And it really hurt. I don't even know if it was betrayal. It's probably presumptuous to say so. Because being betrayed kind of implies that somebody owes us loyalty. And, nobody owes us anything in this world. Except if anybody owes us, you could say it's God owes us. Because Master said to God, I didn't ask to be created. You created me, so you owe me, basically. And so, but I felt betrayed. And then at the end of it, I realized, I'm still here. It was one of the worst things I could imagine, and I'm still here. I'm fine. I'm alive to be sad about it. Life goes on. There's still positive things going and happening, and I'm not really afraid of that anymore because I've lived through it. And so that was my worst fear, I suppose, and so now I have to find a new worst fear. Because I got through this one, and so why get too excited about anything? It wasn't a happy lesson. I wasn't saying that with a big smile. Trying to buck my strength up. But, after about a year, I could look at the person's, photograph and not feel that heart rate go up and all these things. I could just kind of see it as part of my training, part of my learning. And after all, no one went through a harder time on that score than Swamiji. And so I knew that, well, if he had been betrayed, if Master had been betrayed, at least I was in good company. But the thing is that we find that we grow through these tests, and we can become very grateful for them. Swamiji, I was just listening to a talk he gave where when he published The Path, and then he, many years later, published The New Path. I guess it was, not 50 years later, but it was many years later. 33? Anyway, he said, I decided to take out the story of the tragedy of my being thrown out of SRF. He said, partly because now it's, I think the best thing that ever happened to me. So he was seeing it in a new light. But at the same time, I have to say that when he was talking about that once, and I spoke to him, I said, well, Swamiji, you could also, you could see that your service to Master was not limited to just one organization. And he sort of looked at me in the way he often looked at me, kind of like, and he said, it took me a long time to see that. Because, of course, Master started this spiritual family. It was all one and the same. There was no concept of, we could have this and this and this and that. From my point of view, coming to the spiritual path, I would have, I saw that there were 2 organizations or more and so on, so it was easier. But he didn't have that benefit, and I only had that benefit because of what he had done with his life out of that supreme test. So let us not just be grateful only for the good things and say that proves God's love and all the bad things prove God's indifference or God's punishment. It's just not that way. And so, but again, in order to feel it, try to meditate, try to chant, come to satsang or spend satsang with people in other ways, watch videos of Swamiji and Master, listen to their recordings, especially if you haven't been. Meaning find something new to do that you haven't been doing recently. We sometimes joke about sort of you need a variety of vitamins in your diet, and if there's a vitamin you've been missing lately, get some of it because it will help you. And it's also just a nice way to keep things fresh. We have to keep ourselves inspired. And so, but also if you have a particular thing that works regularly, some people, the meditation is just, brings them into that peace constantly. We all need it, but for them, it's really effortless. For some, it's serving, just being at the center, helping out wherever, or serving in other ways. And for some people, it's reading and study. Again, we all need all of these vitamins, but we might have a particular specialty or a particular favorite. It's good to go with that. As I said, my particular favorite was listening to Swamiji, listening to Master. It works every time, and it's really easy too, because you just have to click the link. Links are meant to be clicked, and then it goes. It just takes you. And again, you can. I'll think I'm doing pretty well. I'll listen to this anyway, but I'm feeling pretty good. And then it takes me far beyond wherever I was. But as I said, that's just my particular taste. Also, I should be upfront about that. So go with that which works for you, which is again another law of yoga. Do what works. Is it working for you? Then do it. And so in this way, the more we can feel of God's presence, the closer God comes. And then the more of that we can share with others, but most of all, the more of that He can share of Himself with us. Again, according to the openness of our hearts and our minds and our souls.